Welcome to Email After Hours by SenderScore, powered by Validity.
We're your hosts. My name is Guy Hansen.
And I'm Danielle Gallant, and this is Email After Hours.
We're going back to our Email After Hours topic roots on today's episode: success measurement, data, and personalization. These three critical elements are key to the success or failure of any email program. And today, we're going to dive into some examples of what happens when marketers get them right and what happens when they go wrong.
Our guest today is Edward Cunningham. He's Senior CRM Data and Campaigns Manager at one of our favorite Validity customers, Vision Express. Ed's navigated the intricate world of customer relationship management and marketing campaigns with remarkable skill, from dealing with those inevitable apology emails to mastering the balance of personalization. He's got a treasure trove of stories, anecdotes, insights, and we're really excited to hear about some of his most memorable moments in the world of email, the unexpected insights he's gained, his strategies for making email marketing truly impactful. Welcome to the show, Ed. It's great to have you with us on Email After Hours today.
Thank you very much for having me, both of you. Much appreciated.
And we kick every episode of the podcast off with a bit of an icebreaker. So let's start with a fun one before we get into the email and the chaos. And if your journey in email marketing were a classic movie, which one would it be and why?
I think it's going to come across as really negative, but it isn't. So Groundhog Day would be my choice. Like it sounds negative. I don't mean it in that way. So it's a sense of the repeating rhythm. It's getting up, trying something, seeing how it works. I mean, measure it. What can we do differently this time? And then repeat. Maybe we have an automated campaign, for example, it's going out every day. No reason why we can't improve that. So every day we're letting that go out. We're seeing the results of it. Maybe we run some A/B testing, then implement it the next day. Yeah, so like I say, it sounds more negative than I intend it to be.
I don't know, Ed. Mine was going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I feel like...
Guy, do you have a?
I was leaning towards Psycho, but another story.
We're all on the same page today. That's what's important.
Awesome. Okay, let's start talking about email marketing. And I'm sure marketers will be quite familiar with our first topic, which is all about success measurement and the challenges associated with how to go about measuring campaign performance. Because a great campaign's all well and good, but without being able to read performance accurately, what's the point? And so, Ed, was there ever a time where you found it difficult to track performance? And if so, how did you tackle it and what did you learn?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, if you'll indulge me, I have a lovely anecdote about this one. So in my longest storied career, I've obviously had to be requested to analyze multiple campaigns. But one day, one of my previous roles, I was requested to analyze a campaign that they'd put out. So we were quite a siloed team. So we'd have some people doing promotional marketing, some people doing more CRM side stuff, and I was doing the analytics side of things. So they approached me saying, hey, we wanted some analysis on this. Yeah, I said, okay, fine. See if we can prove the efficacy of the campaign, see if we can put some sort of value to it at least. So I started digging into it. I was like, okay, well, how have we got any tracking set up for this, for example? No, there's no tracking set up. Okay, fine. Is there a voucher that customers are redeeming in our clubs? Yeah, there is. But, this is an old school business. Their tills are just a wooden drawer. That's all they had at that time. There was no fancy EPOS system. So we couldn't track if anyone had actually couldn't even use these vouchers. So I was sort of given nothing to really go on. But at least we had some sort of rudimentary visit tracking. And we also had, as a physical visit to brick and mortar. And we also had the customer list for who actually sent this campaign. So between the two of those things, we could sort of cobble something together. We could say, right, well, this is who you sent to. We know these people came in and we know roughly how much the average spend is going to be. So therefore, we can attach some value to it. So it wasn't a great one to really try and analyze. And it sort of taught at least the other team, if we're going to do this sort of stuff, you need to engage with your analysts early on. There's no point saying, oh, here's how we're going to do the campaign. But if you can't track it, or you have no idea of how you're going to track it or what you're trying to prove, well, there's no end goal, is there? It's just we're sending out and into the void, essentially.
It sounds like a bit of like a patchwork measurement situation, right? Trying to infer what we can from whatever we've got available. And so from this like analytics gap, or measurement oops, like how did you correct the course for the next time? Of course, there's the flip side, which is where data analytics was measured appropriately and then improved campaign performance. Can you tell us about an example of that?
Yeah, sure. It would be a far more recent one. So Q1 of this year, completely different role, completely different industry, thankfully. But that's one where we have a lot more tracking going on. We have a lot more forethought into what we're going to actually do. So we have our customer selection right at the start. We know exactly what they're doing before this. Now, these are really lapsed. These are really lost customers. It was a re-engagement campaign, essentially. So we know exactly what they were doing. And because it's online, we also have in-store tracking. We can see exactly what customers have then come in. We can see customers clicking through into links on the email. So we can track them in GA, see what they're doing there. And then, of course, we've got the database side of things. So we can see, well, did they come in? Yes. How much did they spend? What did they purchase? Is there some sort of trend here? Are these customers going towards a lower value item, a higher value item? Are we seeing anything in terms of gender split, age split? That's the beauty of a properly thought out campaign, because we know exactly how we're going to track it from day one and we have that tracking available to us. We can then provide really, really in-depth analysis. We can go as granular as we want on it, essentially, especially with the website as well, with anything out of Google Analytics. Through that tracking link, we can link transactions for online orders as well, which is really fantastic, because then we can follow people all the way through the funnel. We know exactly when they were sent it, when they opened it, when they clicked it, and then where did they flow through on the website? What does they end up purchasing? And then link that back to the database. We can get a more granular view of what was in their baskets, for example.
I think we are all on the same page there. Data is your friend when you're an analyst. Let's move on to another topic then. So the time-honored one of creating effective personalization. And we've heard many tales about how personalization can be a real tightrope walk on past email after hours episodes. And we've talked previously about the candidness versus creepiness debate when you're leveraging data to create a personalized experience. And I was actually telling Danielle the famous example from Target's email program a few years ago when harnessing big data was first really starting to become a thing, and they churned their data and identified from a young lady's purchase transactions that she was probably pregnant and that it made sense to start serving her with Target products which would help her on her pregnancy journey. And the only problem was that they didn't understand that she was using a household email account and her dad received the email and it was the first he knew of her situation. So I'm sure nothing as extreme as that, Ed, but have you ever had a situation where personalization that you're using in your email program backfired?
Oh, absolutely. A few years ago, I was working for a health food company. And this was at the time when Spotify Wrapped was coming out and it was all the rage. Everyone wanted a piece of that, serving this really rich data to their customers and users. And we decided, hey, it's coming towards the end of the year. Let's do a similar thing for our email marketing. Now, again, it's a well-built database side of things, so we could see exactly who's purchased what. And because we also had it linked to our product database, we knew stuff like how many calories were in an item, what was the fat content, etc. So we decided it'd be really cool to do a wrapped sort of thing where it was, okay, rather than purchasing Domino's or Pizza Hut, for example, you've bought this many of our brand of pizzas. So you've saved this many calories. You've had this much fat content this year. At the time, we were really proud of it because it was a really cool piece of sort of personalization. And then after a while, we started seeing some of the backlash a little bit on Twitter where people were saying, what? Like, this is really creepy. Like, why are you telling me how many calories I've consumed this year and how much I've saved versus shopping in Tesco or Sainsbury's and buying from you? People just found it a bit intrusive. So the lesson there was just because we have the data doesn't mean we should necessarily always use it. But from an analyst's point of view, I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really cool. I'm a big fan of the Spotify Wraps and anything like that. So yeah, I thought it was cool. Customers, not so much.
I think anybody who was calling you out for or saying this is like a bit creepy was really like, please don't tell me how much fat I've consumed over the last.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like Uber Eats. Okay. Like they'll do like an end of year something. It's like, you've made this many orders and you just want to crawl into bed about it sometimes.
I mean, there's obviously Monzo. Monzo does the same thing now where they have an end of year wrap up. And I could not have dismissed that notification any quicker if I tried, frankly. I live next door to a small Sainsbury's, and I'm convinced I probably spent a sizable chunk of money there, probably a house deposit's worth over the years. And I don't need to be reminded of that.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
I'll tell you what, it does work though. I mean, sort of digressing from our conversation for a second, but I'm one of those people, man, I just have to see a cheeseburger and I put on weight. And I was in McDonald's a little while back and I was thinking about getting myself a Big Mac with the trimmings and suddenly saw, and this is going to be 3,000 calories. And I'm thinking, whoa, that's like more than my whole daily allowance. And I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and obviously, and ultimately, you're in good company as a marketer when you make an error like this, right? The thought is good, perhaps the reaction isn't. And one of our pet topics is the art of the oops email, right? Sending that apology. And perhaps contrary to what most marketers might think as they kind of get the dread heart as they're preparing this campaign where they have to apologize to some group of subscribers. These campaigns can actually be highly successful from an engagement perspective. Have you ever had to send an oops email, and then what was the outcome of that?
So yes, but again, I'd like to just tell a story, if you don't mind, about one of my oopses in my long and storied career. Very early on in my days of sort of campaign building, I made a cardinal mistake where rather than sending to really, really lapsed customers, I sent to really, really recent customers, effectively subsidizing their next visit. So rather than re-engaging customers getting to come back in, I just rewarded our most loyal customers for no good reason. It was a simple mistake of just getting a less than a greater than symbol the wrong way round. I very much learned from that lesson. And thankfully, it's never happened again, touch wood. That was on course to cost us a significant amount of money. Thankfully for me, it ended up driving a positive ROI eventually. Not a huge ROI, but it was still positive. So that was a very big lesson for me, especially when the CEO decided to come into our weekly marketing meeting asking, right, who's Ed? And I just sheepishly put my hand up, like, that's me, that's me, sir. And luckily, he was a fantastic CEO. He said, look, I understand these mistakes happen. I understand we've learned from this now. It's never going to happen again. And if we're going to fail, let's fail fabulously. If we're going to do it, let's at least learn from these mistakes. So yeah, that taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about owning up to things, sort of holding my own as well. Say, yes, this is my mistake. I own this. Here's what I've learned from this. And this is why it would never happen again. And obviously, I got quite lucky. But in terms of having to send out apology stuff, so again, there's a few more recent examples of incorrect information going out to customers. So direct mail, for example, where we put some incorrect information on there. No, nothing data breachy or anything horrific like that, just incorrect. And it can worry customers, I find. So we had to send out an apology to those customers and just let them know, hey, don't worry, nothing's been breached. And obviously, it's about how much you do tell them. If you tell a customer, don't worry, we haven't breached any of your information, they're suddenly going to think, well, why are you telling me this? So it's about saying enough without saying too much to unnerve people. And obviously, we didn't really see any positive ROI from that. That wasn't the intent of the campaign. It was simply an automated reminder with some incorrect data on it. But yeah, the apology, it went over fine. We did get some complaints, as you'd expect. But luckily, I think the apology sort of smoothed things over a bit.
So firstly, I think fail fabulously is a great mantra, and I'm going to adopt it. I'm going to write that down and put it up on the wall because I'm with you there. But I love the comment you just made about we have to be sensitive to our customer sensitivities. We are in an era where subscribers are hypersensitive to the way their data is used. And I think more so as more privacy bills become law. And there's definitely a case for that less can sometimes be more. And so, while we're, I think, all fans of the power of data, it's also easy to get bogged down in the data. And I wonder, have you ever made like a seemingly